Welcome back to another episode of Fireside Chat. I'm going to start with a question for you. Has your life been impacted by cancer? Because I know mine has. I lost my father when I was 23 years old to lung and throat cancer. I've lost other family members to cancer throughout my life. And I've had the good fortune of being able to share stories of women on this podcast and on our Run, Try, Bike and the Everyday Athlete platform who have had breast cancer and have had mastectomies, double mastectomy, single mastectomy, and still get out there and are racing triathlon. Brandy Ramirez. And today I get to talk to Joyce Young, who has battled breast cancer and is a runner. And the best part is I met her in March of this year at the Hella Bae Running Shakeout Run for the Oakland Marathon. And then we got to connect again just a few weeks ago at the San Francisco Marathon. So we are becoming fast friends. We ran together and had a great time at the Shakeout Run in Oakland. So enough blabbering from me. Oh, don't forget, subscribe, rate, review, all that good stuff for the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network. Let's get Joyce on the show and let's have a fun conversation. How are you, my friend?
Hi, I'm doing great. And you?
I am great because we met in Oakland in March and we had a fun conversation. And I said, we need to get you on the Fireside Chat. And then I promptly dropped the ball and didn't reach out to you for some time. And then I finally saw you in San Francisco a few weeks ago and I was like, we got to make this happen. And so here we are. So I feel great that I finally was able to get around to getting you on the show.
It's okay. Life happens.
It does. It does. And speaking of life, I want to know about Joyce. And so I start every episode with this question. Who is Joyce Young?
Gosh, when I get asked that question, this is what I describe. I'm a pharmacist, I'm a runner, I'm a breast cancer survivor.
So you seem to have practiced that answer, which tells me that you have taken some time and thought to place those descriptors in that specific order. Why is it pharmacist, runner, breast cancer survivor, and not some other order or even something else?
I actually never thought about why I put it in that order, but if I know my own logical brain, it's probably because it's sequential, right? I became a pharmacist first, and then I started running as an adult. I mean, I ran in high school, but didn't really count that as running. But as an adult, I picked up running again, so I really connect and I see myself as a runner. And then the breast cancer survivor came third.
So I will ask you about the runner piece. Was running something that you started to do because life and being a pharmacist was stressful? Or was there another reason as to how running came about in your life?
Yeah. In high school, we ran 2 years of cross country, and that was mostly social. All of my friends ran. And another, I think, reason I joined the sports team was just kind of round out, a college application. So it was fun, didn't really understand much of it. As an adult, at some point, step back. In between high school and when I did decide to start running again, once I moved to San Francisco, I would kind of run beta breakers, randomly and never trained for it. I would just run and it'd be like the one race I ran a year. And then I think in 2014, I decided that, I really should exercise, and I didn't really know what I liked, but it was just something where I had friends in my circle who run half marathons. And I kind of just thought, well, if they can do it, well, maybe I can too. I never run anything longer than a 2-mile race, but hey, let's try it. So that's how it started.
That's amazing because just last week on August 18th, we published an episode with Melanie Katcher, who is a cyclist. And the whole premise of her conversation with me was about seeing other people do things and believing that she could too. And so she's actually started a group in Vancouver, Canada, where she lives, for cyclists, for female cyclists specifically. And she said, like, people will show up and they're nervous, rightfully so, right? I don't know anybody, and can I do this? And she welcomes them with open arms. And she said one of the things that she's loved, and this is going to dovetail into Hella Bae Running, I believe. One of the things that she's loved and what she has seen is some of these women are showing up nervous, anxious, intimidated, and before you know it, they're connecting with other women. They're going on look at the smile on your face.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
it's not exactly the same, but it almost sounds like a carbon copy of Hella Bae Running, does it not?
Yeah, and it probably is a carbon copy of everybody who started running not thinking that they're a runner. You know, I meet a lot of women who are new to running, and they, you know, or people who haven't started running and they're afraid of starting because they said, well, I'm not a runner, I can't run fast. And I'm like, well, what does run fast really mean? You know?
Yes.
There's no such, I mean, you know, you have to look at yourself and what you can do, think about it that way, and not say that I can't run as fast as somebody else. You know, you don't want to compare yourself to the next person.
Whenever somebody says I'm not fast, I ask immediately, compared to who?
Yeah.
Right? Like, compared to who? Because I'm not fast compared to Usain Bolt. Right? Like, we can have these conversations all day long. Like, it's a philosophical belief.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of the reasons why I loved connecting with Lizzie and Hella Bae Running and going out there, because when we were out in Oakland, first of all, you guys welcomed me as if I was family to begin with. And none of you had ever met me before, which was fantastic.
Was that the first time you joined Hella Bae for like any?
Yeah,
Oh,
for
awesome.
anything. Yeah, so short story long, I don't even know how Lizzie and I got connected on Instagram, but we made this announcement that we were doing the Run Club tour and we were going to the Oakland Marathon. And she reached out and she said, hey, we'd love to have you guys come do our shakeout run at Equator Coffee. And not for nothing, Lizzie, I love you, but you made my life so easy, because I was like, I'm going to have to connect with people. I'm going to have to find a coffee shop. Like, I'm going to have to do all this work. And she already did it with me. I was like, I'll be there. And so we showed up with our crew. And like I said, you guys welcomed me with open arms. And so it's not a surprise to see how quickly Hella Bae has grown in the last 7 years, the number of people, even going from the Oakland Marathon to the San Francisco Marathon, the number of people at the shakeout run was, quite different. And so I would imagine, how did you get involved with Hella Bae and the crew?
Yeah, I actually, so in 2024, I was connected to one of the community runs in San Francisco. Now, I didn't start out as a Hella Bae. I met somebody else in our San Francisco City Bay group named Carla, and she was actually at the shakeout run. She was the one running around helping with the screen printing. So she, myself, and one other person, we got connected through doing or supporting Wazelle in their San Francisco community run that they call Flight Club. And then from there, because of Carla, I was introduced to Hella Bae. And since we kind of do that run in collaboration between Hella Bae and Wazelle, so it kind of naturally made sense for me to become part of Hella Bae. So, it's like things in life just always kind of happen, and I always say things happen for a reason. So, and I mean, I've loved the group, I love that it's an all women group, and it's been nice. It's a good crew of people and good support, good motivation.
It's a hella crew.
Yeah.
I want to ask you this because we're seeing more and more women winning races outright, especially at the ultra distance. Take us back to when you first started getting into running. You said it was 2014, Beta Breakers, and maybe I should train for this stuff. And over the course of the last 10 to 12 years, what has been one of the more or handful of significant changes that you have seen with running specifically for women?
For women, I mean, to your point, definitely more women's out there running and winning races and doing things that I think in the past had always been more maybe male oriented. I know even with marathoning, back when like Boston didn't really allow women to run, and that's changed. So, and I think even now, like a huge difference is like run clubs. I mean, they're everywhere. And
Yeah.
I'll tell you, in 2017, actually 2016 or 2015, when I started looking around San Francisco for a run club, I had a really hard time finding them.
Really?
I would Google, and it wasn't until like beginning of 2017, I finally found San Francisco Road Runners Club. And I've been with that club for about 6-7 years before I, you know, learned more about Hella Bae Running, and I kind of made the switch because it made sense for me. It was a better fit for me at the time. So, but yeah, I just think that the amount of run clubs out there, and even just women owned, I'd say maybe like gear, because Wazelle is a women owned, uh, made for women company. I know there are other brands out there that are women owned, companies. So I just kind of feel like, you know, more and more there's room for women to participate, to be a part of, the community, and really kind of grow something bigger than they've ever been able to had in the past.
Yeah, and I will give a bonus plug to one of our brand partners, which is Hedis, which is a women-owned running shoe company that makes a shoe specifically for women and not for men. And to just think about, so I got started running in 2007. And to think about the fact that, we're going on 20 years of me running, that this is the first time a shoe is made specifically for women and only women.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of crazy to think, but it's sort of the better late than never concept to see that happening. And so I want to continue along that path. When you start to see more and more women um, coming into Hella Bay and whatever other run clubs and having success, does that empower you? Does this go back to what we said earlier? If I see somebody that looks like me, runs like me, acts like me, does life like me, I then believe I can do it too. So as you see more and more women, does that empower you?
I think, what's really interesting, because I've kind of gone through my own run journey where I've come from a place where I'm like, I'm not really fast. I'm that 10 to 11 minute per mile pace kind of a person. I started out not even being able to run 3 miles straight when I first, got back into running in 2014, and I was training for a half marathon. I was trained for San Jose Rock and Roll. And, now that I'm doing kind of this round two that I kind of spoke about, my round two, and I'm meeting new runners that are kind of going through this, I don't know, they're finding out what their true potential, is with running, because I see a lot of, women in Hella Bay. They are 2+ hour half marathoners, and everybody's like, oh, I really want to break that 2 hour mark, and I don't know if I can. It's like, no, you guys can. You have to believe that you can, and then you can, be consistent in your training, because everybody has the potential. You have to put in the work. I always tell them when I first meet them, it's like, well, what's your goal? You got to go based off your goal. If your goal is to finish, it doesn't really matter how many times you go out there, run it. You could probably walk the race and finish. If you have a time goal, then you got to figure out, well, how am I going to get to that time goal? And this year alone, I've seen so many of the women in Hella Bay, and they are, PRing, like, they're running sub 2 hour half marathons. They're getting to a sub 7 mile. I mean, it's amazing. And they're PRing every single time they run a race. So I think when these women can see that and feel it, and they see their own performance, I think it also motivates themselves to keep going and keep doing it. So
100%. We're recording on August 18th. Tomorrow, August 19th, we're actually putting out a coach's minute, and it actually talks about what you just said, that a lot of athletes, not just women, a lot of athletes believe that they're going to fail. So they have this belief of failure instead of having a belief of success, that they're like, when they show up to a race start line, like believing that they're going to succeed. And so I want to turn the tables on you. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but you have run TSP, correct?
I ran TSP, yes.
Yes. So when you're lining up for something as big as that, right? Like, don't get me wrong, a 5K is still a hard race, but you're now going to be running multiple nights with TSP. And did you go from Santa Monica to Vegas?
This year we actually departed from San Francisco.
San Francisco. Okay.
Yeah.
So you go from, so you're starting in San Francisco and you can't envision, like you can't see the end, right? Like Vegas is somewhere over there. And so like, what's the mindset as you get ready to start that journey? Is there this belief of success or is there doubt that creeps in?
Um, I have to say, I don't think I doubted the fact that we could make it. It just becomes like, well, when are we going to make it as a team?
Okay.
But I will say, as you know, once you get into that middle period, like day 2, day 3, and you know you're tired and there's been the lack of sleep, you really don't get to eat the way that you normally would, as you know, as you were training for, you know, a long road race, an ultra or a marathon. So the eating was totally off, the sleep was totally off. And then, you know, with me, I mean, I don't really like the dark. So I kind of discovered that running in the dark at night just really wasn't comfortable for me. So that's another element where, hey, we're out there 3 nights in a row. And, you know, while you're running, it's like, okay, I'm just glad I have these 1 mile, 2 mile segments and I can keep switching off. And, you know, and then that made it feel better because it's like, okay, I just have to get through a mile. I just have to get through 1.5 miles. And then I can, you know, rest in the car for a little bit and then get back out there and run a short segment. So, but yeah, it, you know, I think it does take a toll because you're not, you know, you can't go out and train for the lack of sleep. Right. Or the lack of nutrition.
So did you, Matt, like in your mindset, if you knew that you were going to be running overnight legs, start to go from, I've got to run these overnight legs to stay in the mile that I'm in? Like, that's what I'm hearing. Is that kind of like how you were able to make that run in the dark? And I'm going to say easier. For those of you who are listening, you don't see me putting easier in air quotes, but make it easier for you to get through that mile and a half, 2 mile stretch then?
I think for me, it was more of like, I don't know what kind of wild animals are out here. I don't want to know. So I'm going to run as fast as I physically can just so that I can get off the road, you know? And then you hear noises. You're like, what's that noise about? You know, again, like you're really in the middle of California. These are like backcountry roads. They're 1 lane, you know, each side kind of a thing. And you look over to the side of the road and it's like this big, huge clearing of like grass and maybe some trees. And you just have no idea what's out there. And I think that's what scared me the most.
So I have run I've finished 800 milers. I don't know how many 50 milers, 100 Ks, whatever. And I've raced Cocodona, which took me 110 hours. Mm-hmm. I've done those things. And for whatever reason, I've never really been nervous or scared overnight in those things. But one year I was pacing a friend at the 100K at Pumpkin Holler, which was in Oklahoma. And we're on a wide Jeep road. So it's not as if we're like on single track in the deep forests. The moon light is out there. And I heard a noise rustling in the bushes next to me. And speaking of Usain Bolt, I would have beat him at a 100-meter dash that day.
Right.
I got so scared because it was unexpected.
Yeah.
Right? Like I just had no idea. So I was laughing at your answer because I know exactly what you mean. I've been there.
Yeah. And then it's like, even when you're running through like a neighborhood, you know, again, this is kind of like out in the middle of like country California, but you know, you're running through this road and then, you know, there are homes around, but they're kind of far away. And all of a sudden you hear all these dogs barking. Now,
yeah,
I don't know if the dogs are inside the houses or they're in a yard. And if you're in a yard, is there a hole in the fence that you can, you know, have no idea. So, but yeah, that's, you know, it's my fear.
So you made it because you're on this show, you survived.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel empowered now? Like, I can do anything. I've managed to get through the nights of running at TSP. I can do anything.
You know, yes. And then now that I know, what I would have wished I knew in April is have an alarm with me so that if there were wild dogs or animals out there, then maybe that might make me feel a little bit more comfortable.
Oh, interesting.
Because I didn't have any of those things, and so that's why, you know, running in the dark just made me more nervous. But
You mean like a bell or something to make a noise that would distract it or scare the animal?
maybe, or something that makes a loud noise. Now, this is
Yeah.
by no means am I promoting a product, but I did end up coming across a product called Birdie, the Birdie alarm, and it's actually a safety alarm that also has a pretty bright light. So,
Okay.
you know, for nighttime running, you know, or early morning before the sun rises, like that could be a safety device that I think women could carry, and it can clip onto your shorts, clip onto your, you know, hat or something. There's a way to activate the alarm, like if you were, you know, if something were to happen, whether it's an animal or a person.
In the 6 years that we've been running this business, and we've had hundreds of women tell their running stories, and I always feel like it's my job and my duty to talk about runner safety,
Mhm.
specific women's runner safety, and to um, direct this towards men to listen to women, right? And I'll tell this short story. My wife and I would go out to Cougar Mountain when we lived in Seattle. I ran this trail, Joyce, every weekend without fail, every weekend. And one day she decided to do the trail as well, but she's running slower than me. So she like I go do my thing, and then she'll come up and do her own thing. And she says to me, "Did you ever see that A-frame outhouse, like, structure?" And I was like, "Never. I have no idea what you're talking about." And so we finished the run, we walk out there, and there is an A-frame structure that, look, animals could hide in there, or people who don't want to, you know, want to do harm can live in there. And that's when it dawned on me, like, I've been living this life of ignorance that I don't have to put my head on a swivel, right? I can ignore the signs in the woods where she can't. And so I'm glad that you mentioned the birdie whistle, because women should know that this is something that they can get, and it's a device that they can use
Mhm.
to help keep themselves safe when they're running at night, even if it's in their own local neighborhood.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, you know, even in San Francisco, during this is a few years ago, but I've definitely heard about attacks at like 5 a.m. You know, women who were running along the Embarcadero and the marina, somehow somebody came out from behind and chased them or attacked them. So even when you think you're in a safe neighborhood, doesn't mean that you shouldn't think about it. You know, there's
Right.
right now, I typically won't go running in the dark unless I am with a group, or I know it's very well lit with, you know, either sufficient like vehicle traffic, or I know there are just going to be enough pedestrians or other runners around.
100%. I mentioned breast cancer at the start of the show in the intro. And when we met in Oakland, you and I talked about your breast cancer diagnosis and having gone through it. And so I want to talk about breast cancer, but I want to talk about it in a couple of different ways. One is with regards to being a runner and being diagnosed after you've already started your running journey, and knowing that you can do hard things. When you were given the diagnosis of having breast cancer, and I'm going to ask you this, was your approach to it like, I can do hard things, I run, I've dealt with hard stuff before, or was your thought process, how is this going to impact my running, or both?
More the latter. Um, I think, you know, I was diagnosed, and really lucky and fortunate, I was diagnosed very early. I mean, I, I ended up actually having two different types of breast cancer in one breast, which is very interesting to me. But I was diagnosed at stage 0, stage 1, which is like the earliest it can be, and typically the treatment is surgery, and you know, surgery was sufficient. I actually never had to have chemo, so I'm very, very grateful for that, because it made things, I feel like, a little easier. You know, I know I know other women who have to go through chemo for breast cancer, and it's tough. It's a tough treatment to undertake. But for me, I think it was more of like, okay, how is this going to impact my running? There was like, like during the time that I was diagnosed, this happened in March of 2022, and in 2021, all of a sudden, I think I felt like I exploded with my running for some reason. Everything was kind of, I was training for the Boston Marathon that actually was run in the fall that year because COVID pushed it out to October. And I started PRing like at paces that I didn't even think I was capable of, but I was PRing every single thing from, 1 mile races all the way to the Boston Marathons, is the PR. And so once I got the diagnosis, I was like, okay, well, I know I need to get surgery. Now, what does that mean? How long do I have to be out from running when I have surgery? And this is going to impact, my subsequent races because I think I had like Chicago lined up, New York lined up, another Boston, and I wanted to actually do Boston to Big Sur. That was all getting lined up. And all of a sudden I was like, I may not be able to do this. So that was probably the first thing that went through my head, and initially the treatment plan was actually a lumpectomy followed by radiation therapy. Unfortunately, the first lumpectomy didn't get all of the cancer, so I actually had to go back in for a second lumpectomy. And then as I was going through the planning process for starting radiation, the radiation oncologist had sent me back for one more final mammogram just to confirm that, the second lumpectomy actually did remove all the cancer. And for whatever random reason, something lit up on the mammogram, and I went back to square one. And so I feel like that time point really it really hit me a little bit more like, oh my God, I totally thought I was done and I was moving forward and I was just going to be able to go back to running, and training again normally. And but lo and behold, I had to do surgery number 3, which was my mastectomy. So, yeah.
You're telling this story with a smile on your face, and I can't help but think that the smile is for one of 2 reasons. One, you've made it through. You dealt with this situation and you're back to running, and it gives you immense pride to be on the other side of this. And the other one is a mask, right? Like I smile a lot, and oftentimes I'm smiling through pain. And I'm wondering if the smile is like the pain of the memory of having the diagnosis and then the process and all of the things. Help me. The smile is for what reason?
That's a really interesting question. And maybe it's a little bit of both, because I feel like if I'm not smiling, the emotions are going to come through.
I feel you. Same. I wear my heart on my sleeve, and I'm an emotional person as well. And I think that's why I smile through a lot of stuff too, is so that a lot of the emotions don't come out. So you're a part of the running community. You go through this diagnosis, you go through 3 surgeries, and here you are today. Would you say you're rebuilding your running journey and having started it again? And if you would say yes to that, was it difficult to get started again, knowing where you were and sort of having a mystery of where am I starting today in comparison to where I was?
Yeah, a little bit. And I mean, I never really stopped running even through the time of, all my surgical treatments, if you will.
I'm going to interrupt you. Do you realize how tough you are to do that? Because, because look, we often joke like men will stub their toe and we'll be yelling and screaming and carrying on, right? And you are the second female that I've had on this show. Orla told me that she went through chemo and ran after chemo. Like her celebration for going through chemo was to run a 5K.
I think I'm engaging with her because I saw part of her podcast with you. She's amazing.
Amazing. And that you are too. Like, you're telling us this story. Like, I didn't really stop running through this process. And again, I just think about me personally and men in general. Like, again, we stub our toe and like party's over. We're laid up. We got a block of ice on our feet. Like, can't do anything.
Well, the funny thing though with all this is when I was supposed to have radiation treatment, it was like I think it was 4 weeks, Monday through Friday, every day. And I was talking to the radiation oncologist and I was like, so can I like run to my appointment and do radiation and then run home? Is that okay? You know? And she gave the okay, but the only thing she said is you may want to bring a towel just so that you can pat yourself dry because we don't want sweat, you know, where you're getting radiation. I'm like, all right. And my friends thought I was crazy because they were like, Joyce, if you need a ride, tell us. We'll take you to your appointments. I'm like, no, I live 2 miles away from, you know, the clinic. I don't need you to drive me to an appointment. And I was like, oh, I was thinking of just running. They're like, what? You're crazy.
Were you also then running back after radiation?
Well, that was the plan, but I ended up not needing radiation. But if I did, my plan was to run there and run back. Now, if I just didn't feel good enough to run, I can walk, I can take public transportation, I could have Ubered, you know. So there are plenty of ways for me to get around, but it was just, it's funny. So like when you had your guest on with the, you know, having
Orla,
Orla, she's just like this little firecracker. And when she's like, yeah, I'm gonna go out running, I told my chemo nurses that what I'm doing, and I was like, yeah, that's right, you go.
Did your doctor or nurse, whomever you asked, did they ask you how long, like how far are you running? How long will it take you to get here? Or they were like, just run?
No, I just kind of said I don't live far away, and I was thinking of just doing, you know, run here, get the treatment, run home. Is that okay? And even, you know, after my mastectomy, actually, it was really interesting. I had to get reconstruction, and my mastectomy was January 2023. I was already registered to run Chicago that October. And I knew I had to get my reconstruction done because I needed to, I had to stop. I think I couldn't run for about 6 weeks after the reconstruction. So I was like back calculating. I was like, okay, if I have a marathon in October,
runners are
I need
wild.
to start training, which means I have 6 weeks off from surgery, which makes my surgery date, like what's the latest it can be. And I was supposed to have surgery, I think in April or May, and it got pushed to June. And then finally I was like, okay, I get that my surgeon needed to take care of, you know, more important like surgical like patients or whatever it is. But I'm like, I have to tell her scheduler, I'm like, can you not push me out anymore? Because I need to have this done so I can start training for the Chicago Marathon.
So you've run Chicago and you've run Boston.
Mm-hmm.
Is the idea or the goal, and maybe you have already achieved it, to do the 6 world majors, or 7, I guess, if you include Sydney now?
That the goal is to complete at a minimum the original 6. So I'm up, done 4.
Yep.
Next year I will run the 5th. My 5th one will be London.
Okay.
And then
the 6th one?
Last one will be Tokyo.
So Berlin, Chicago, Boston, and New York have been completed.
Yes.
Which is your favorite, and why is it New York?
That was sly. Well, I can't say my favorite's New York, but I do love New York. So I think I have to say my favorite is Boston, but not necessarily because it's like the biggest major and everybody wants to run it and maybe the hardest one to get into. I think because I ran Boston during the year that the field size was smaller because it was still kind of post-COVID, you know. They definitely decreased the field size. I was, again, very lucky to have made it into that race because I had aged up. And so I got extra like cushion with my
buffer.
Yeah, I had extra buffer. So, because I know other people who actually got in for 2020 and then for 2021, they just ended up not having enough buffer because the field size got cut.
Right.
And it was just kind of a nice experience because you didn't have like the huge crowds, you know. The the race, what was really cool is they drive you to the start. There was no holding cell. You weren't not held at this athlete's village for hours until your wave started. They just allowed us, as soon as the bus arrived, you started walking down this like chute. Once you get to the start line, you could just go. So it's just a rolling start.
Yeah, it eliminates a lot of anxiety.
And then also it's like, well, you're already ready to go, you know?
Yeah.
Instead of sitting around waiting forever, you could just start. Now, even post-race, I could go to different merchants and have a t-shirt printed, get something, and there was no line. It wasn't like if I wanted something done at Nike, I had to stand on the line that goes out the door and around down the block and around the corner. And I know like with Chicago, it was just lines everywhere. And I was like, never mind, I'm not going to go stand in line for something at Tracksmith to get some posters stamped,
Right.
So that's one of the reasons why I love Boston. It's just like the experience just wasn't so crowded that you couldn't enjoy the event.
Makes sense.
And also actually that one tunnel of screaming ladies from, I think it's Wellesley College, that was really cool.
You said that you set a PR at Boston too, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Was that the intention, or because of the way the system had been set up for that particular year, where anxiety and stress was a little bit lower because you didn't have to wait around for everything? It's set up like sort of the perfect scenario for it.
No, it actually was the intent to PR, because of the training I was doing that year sort of basically got me to a place where I was able to PR, and a fairly significant PR. I think I ended up PRing on a marathon about 6 or 7 minutes.
Which is a lot. That is a lot, 6 or 7 minutes. I want to stay on the PR.
Sorry. Yeah, I went from a 3:33 to a 3:26.
It's impressive. That's super, super impressive. And I know how much that hurts, because the one time I tried to qualify for Boston, I ran a 3:31, and Joyce, I kid you not, I've never been in so much pain that when I finished that race, I said, I'm never running another marathon again. And I did not until I ran at Oakland when I met you earlier this year.
Oh, really?
14 years between marathons.
Hey, but you came back.
I did. Look, I did a lot of stuff in between. I raced 8 Ironman. So I ran 8 marathons at the end of an Ironman, and I've run 800 milers in Cocodona. I've been doing things in between, but like my body was like in so much pain. Like everything hurt when I finished that marathon, and I was in tears, and I was like, I'm done. Like, I'm never doing this again. I'm never running another marathon again. And I held true to form for 14 years until got pulled out of sort of running retirement for marathons.
Never say never.
That's true. You never say never. I want to go back to the PRs. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I actually had always said I'm not running marathons. And now I've done 7 and 3 on deck for next year. So anyways.
Here's the thing. So like this year, I'm training for them, don't get me wrong, but the importance for the marathons that we're running this year is to get to meet people like Joyce, to get to meet people like Lizzie in person, to actually get to visit people in the community, to connect with each other. The racing part is secondary to all of this stuff for me for this year. And I think that's one of the reasons why I was able to go back, is because I put the finish lines and finish times in perspective. It was all the things that are going to happen before you get to race day that are important. The shakeout runs, the coffee, the conversations, like all of that stuff was more important to me, and making sure that that was happening. And then the finish times and finish lines, whatever they were, I'm going to celebrate because I did the thing. But I didn't put, I didn't heap all that stress on me to finish.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I have goals to pace in the future. I want to pace people and help others get to the finish line.
It's cool. Like I've paced informally, I guess that's the right word, friends who've wanted to achieve certain time goals at certain races, and I've run with them to help them do that. But I'd like to do, I'm going to forget her name. She's in Hella Bae. She seems to pace at every event.
Dorothy.
What's her name?
Is it Dorothy?
No.
or Yoli.
She goes by Opaluz. Opaluzz is her.
Oh, I think it's Warda. I don't know
Yes.
very well. Yeah.
Yes, she seems to pace every race in the Bay Area, and so I'd like to become her when I go up.
Yeah, no,
And
there's a few pacers I know, and they pace a lot of races. So
going back to PRs, because the
mhm.
way this story has gone so far, it was I was setting all these PRs. I get diagnosed with breast cancer, and I'm starting all over again. And as you're starting all over again, are you clearly you have to be training in order to get back to certain levels? But as you've been training and getting back to certain levels, are you comparing yourself to pre breast cancer diagnosis, Joyce? Or is this a second coming of Joyce's running journey and this is where you're living these days?
Yeah, I think actually a little bit of both because
Okay.
one, I'm not exactly the same age as I was 10 years ago. I'm probably
Right.
about 10 years older now. So there's some things that, your body just doesn't want to do, at this age, which is
Yeah.
okay. But I think I'm also being a little bit more mindful and strategic and understanding that I'm not here to just throw down one race, right? And run hard as fast as I can and tire myself out, or I don't want to get injured because I actually did have
Yeah.
an injury going into Boston. So right now I'm more thoughtful about how I want to approach my training. I have a trainer that I go to. She puts together my strength and stability routine. So that's to get me stronger. I don't have to do as many weekly miles and still kind of be able to maybe achieve the same results as I did before. It makes me stronger, gets me the stability, everything I need to prevent injuries. So I do that. I also don't do as many miles. When I was training for Boston, I ran every day. I had a coach who gave me a training plan, and it was running every day. I peaked at something like 70 plus miles for the week. But I think maybe that's really also why I ended up with the adductor strain injury toward the end of that training block. So I don't do, running 7 days a week anymore. I probably run 5 days a week max right now. And I'm usually about a 30 to 40 mile per week, unless I'm, training for a marathon or maybe TSP, I hit 50 miles. So I think this is a little different how I train, but, and I think what's the same is I know that, at that time, for me to have gotten to those, the paces I was running in 21 and for Boston, it took several years of running and training to get there. So I know that it's a slow process. You progress a little bit at a time. You're not going to get huge gains all at one shot. So I think this is the needing patience. And sometimes you forget. Sometimes you go out and you run a race. You're like, I felt crappy. What happened? Like, am I overtraining? This really happened last year. Sorry, not last year. Last week, I was at Seawees in Vancouver, the Lululemon Seawees half marathon, and I looked at the elevation map and I was like, okay, well, the gain isn't, this course is fairly similar in terms of the elevation gain as Livermore Valley half. I ran Livermore Valley in March this year and felt great the entire race. And, I wasn't racing it, I was just running as a long run. I slept 2 hours there. Lululemon, kind of the similar timing, but I just felt crappy for the second half. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, am I overtraining? What's happening? I just come back from a trip to Asia, so my body's probably tired. I'm a little jet lagged. So anyways, this past Sunday, ran a 1 mile race, fastest mile I've done in 3.5 years.
No way.
Sub 7.
That is amazing. So take me through this process, right? So it's a sub 7 minute mile. So was the goal to PR it? And if so, as you're getting towards the end and things are hurting, I have to imagine, because running as fast as you can for a mile hurts.
Yeah.
Are you like, I'm getting this, I'm going to get this PR. I'm going to get it. And it kind of just pushes that pain away a little bit. And it maybe because I know this happens for me. The pain becomes the inspiration because it's like, look, it's going to hurt whether I'm running as fast as I can, or even if I slow down, it's still going to hurt.
Yeah, I think I went out saying I'm not going to overly push myself because I don't want to hurt, halfway through. And as I started running, I was like, oh, actually, this is feeling okay. And I'm constantly checking my Garmin because like I need to know kind of what pace, because I can go out too fast and then just completely tank, right? That last like half mile, last quarter mile. I just wanted to be, kind of fairly cognizant of kind of what pace I'm running, and so I can adjust as I go. I knew I wasn't going to PR because I'm still about, gosh, my PR for the mile is like around 6:20. So I'm still a bit away from it. It may still take me another year to 2 years before I can even hit those paces if I get there, if I can get there. But yeah, I think I did feel good on the mile. I don't know if it was getting enough sleep. What was it? The shoes, because they were super lightweight. I was wearing Nike Street Flies, and they're the lightest shoes I think out there. The weather was great. It was overcast. It was out in the marina, flat, and I know that the race coordinators, they originally had the race running out towards the Golden Gate Bridge, which probably would have been a little bit of headwind. And they had changed the direction of the race. So now it was running from Golden Gate Bridge towards like town. So I think there may have been a little bit of tailwind. So you put all those factors together. I was like, okay, yeah, I can kind of understand. So it was a nice little confidence booster, because I was really worried that I was getting to the point where I'm overtraining, overrunning. So, those things pop up.
Major applause to the RDs for setting you athletes up for success that day. Let's move it around and let's set them up for success. I love it. And as you're talking, I'm envisioning my day in San Francisco and what it was like to see that. So I'm glad that the Run Club tour included the San Francisco Marathon, because now I've been to San Francisco once before that, but not to the parts of San Francisco that I got to see during the race. So I can envision that scenario out there and everything that you were describing and living in there. I could talk to you for days on end, and we already have. We've talked at least twice at Oakland and San Francisco, and I have so many more questions. So I'll have to have you come back on the show, but I want to be cognizant of your time, and I want to let people know where they can get in touch with you so they can see your story of and come back. Can they find you? Where can they enjoy your story and your journey, Joyce?
So I'm mostly on Instagram, and my handle is at RPH Runner. RPH is the shortened way of saying registered pharmacist, so that helps people remember it. So again, it's at RPH Runner.
Awesome. I do have a bunch of questions that relate to food, because I do believe that when you break bread with people, you get to know them on a level that's deeper than just your standard, hey, how are you doing? Are you willing to have a little bit more fun in answering these food questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. Pineapple on pizza, yay or nay?
No. Nay.
Yeah. Yes. See, this is why we are fast friends.
Pineapple was intended to be enjoyed as something sweet, not mixed with, I don't know, salty and
acidic. It's just not, like the people that tell me they like pineapple on pizza, I always follow up with pineapple on pizza by itself, or does it have to have like Canadian bacon or pepperoni or sausage or jalapenos? And they always say, oh, it has to have all these other things. I'm like, so you don't like pineapple on pizza. You like this whole entire combination of things that includes pineapple. And so I tend to win my argument there.
No, nay.
I love it. Favorite candy that is chocolate is?
Favorite peanut butter M&Ms.
Oh, okay. Not the peanuts, but peanut butter.
Yes. They're almost
interesting,
like Reese's, but like almost kind of creamier on the inside.
Yeah, I like it. Favorite non-chocolate candy?
Ooh, favorite non-chocolate candy. Oh, you got me there.
I mean, you're a runner. I would assume nerd clusters would have been the first thing out of your mouth.
No, actually, I love gummy bears. Not nerd
Yes.
clusters, but yeah, gummy bears.
Do you have a specific brand of gummy bears? Like, is it
Haribo.
Haribo?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like the Haribo. I don't know why the texture is just like it's chewy and it's not too soft.
Yes. That's where pineapple comes in. Like the pineapple gummy bear from Haribo is fantastic.
It's the best flavor.
Yes.
It's
See, we don't hate pineapple. We just don't like it on our pizza.
exactly. It's just kind of like a lot of times I do not like cherry candy, but I love cherries.
Oh, that's very interesting. I love cherries too. Now I'm thinking like I do love like a cherry Jolly Rancher. I can get behind a cherry Jolly Rancher. I'm good there. Yeah, I don't think I have a discernible palate when it comes to cherry candy. I'm good with cherry candy. Like, how about Black Forest cake? Because that's cherries and chocolate. Are you a fan of?
No,
No.
I don't think so. I can't remember if I had that. Maybe like
Do
red
you?
velvet cake that has chocolate in it, right?
So here's my question when it comes to red velvet. I always ask people if red velvet is a real flavor, or if it's just chocolate cake dressed up to go to the prom.
Ooh. Okay, so to be fair, I don't know all the ingredients that go into a red velvet cake, but I do know that it has chocolate in it.
Yeah. It's so because I've talked to plenty of bakers. We've actually had bakers comment on our podcast when I asked this question. Bakers I know that red velvet cake is a real flavor because it has alkalized cocoa and it has a whole bunch of specific ingredients to make it. But if you go to Kroger,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you go to the grocery store and you get sheet cake,
Yeah.
they are not doing all of the specialty stuff to make it red velvet. They're putting red food dye in there and they're calling it a day.
Of course.
Do you have a favorite flavor of cake?
Cake. Oh my God. I actually have such a sweet tooth, so like over the years, it's always been ice cream and cakes. Like if you put anything sweet in front of me, I have no willpower. I will not like say no to it. I will say though, ever since I had the cancer diagnosis, I started cutting out sweets from my diet. I still eat it. I just don't eat it to the frequency that I used to. So I'm very careful kind of in terms of how I choose my carbs. Now, the only reason why I said that too is cancers, at least tumors, I don't think blood cancers this would apply to, but just cancers in general are fueled by sugar.
Yeah.
So, more sugar that you eat, if you had cancer cells around, you kind of like inviting it to keep working and do its thing. So, but.
So if you decide to have a sweet treat every now and again, are you going to cake, ice cream, chocolate, pie? Is there like, I'm going to treat myself today and I'm going to get this, and it's going to almost always be whatever this is. Is there a certain thing?
Ice cream.
Ice cream. A certain flavor?
Yeah. So remember you had this on one of your Instagram posts about ice cream flavors. But right now, one of my favorites is the Gott's soft serve ice cream, and I get the vanilla chocolate swirl. Now, it's not the oat milk version. It has to be the actual
full fat.
Yeah, full whatever they use. It's so good.
Let's go to savory then. Is there a particular meal that you crave almost always after a hard race or a hard effort in a workout?
I don't really crave anything because so now I know like what I should be putting in my body after a hard workout is protein.
Yeah, so you could crave a hamburger, right? Or a cheeseburger.
Yeah, actually, I think after races, sometimes like hamburger is kind of my go-to thing.
Yeah.
Like I've been asked like hamburger or pizza, I'm like I would go with a hamburger. But like now I think I'd actually grab like a yogurt or like a protein shake or smoothie. I know it's really silly. It's like I know it's not. It's kind of boring.
We're gonna keep playing the game anyway. Are you a onion ring or a French fry person?
French fry.
Is it waffle, tater tot, shoestring, steak?
If I had a choice, well, I actually like In-N-Out fries.
You do?
I do.
What?
I do. Like, I like them better than McDonald's.
Wow. Breaking news. Somebody likes In-N-Out over McDonald's French fries.
Yeah. I also don't eat as much French fries anymore, but I do, enjoy it once in a while. But I don't think I like those thick steak fries. I don't like it too skinny. I see, this is why I kind of like the In-N-Out fries. They're kind of like the right size.
Those steak fries are just like a baked potato that's been cut in quarters. Like it's. Are you a coffee drinker?
I am a coffee drinker.
What's the order?
Almond milk latte.
Nice.
At Starbucks, it's a soy milk latte.
Yeah. They have almond milk at Starbucks, don't they?
They do. I don't like their almond milk.
Oh, interesting.
Milk.
That's really interesting because if I order a latte at Starbucks, I always order almond milk, and maybe I'll need to try a soy and see if I like it better.
For some reason, I've had the soy latte from Starbucks like for years before they even introduced almond milk there, but I haven't liked their almond milk.
Interesting. So I had this after the San Francisco Marathon. Right across the street from the finish line, there's that hotel, and they had like an outdoor patio, and so we had brunch there. And I don't know what came over me, but I was like, I need to have an iced espresso spritzer. And so, yeah, oh my goodness, I will share the link with you. I made it. It's super simple, right? I had the bartender pour a double shot over ice, and then I just poured Pellegrino and a little bit of almond milk into it, and it was like the most refreshing thing. Because if you can remember at the San Francisco Marathon, as the day went on, it got warmer. Like we were lucky in the beginning, it was nice and everything else, but as the day went on, it got warmer. And so when we were finished, we were sitting in the sun. I was like, I need something refreshing, and I really want a Pellegrino, but I also want a coffee. And so I made myself an espresso spritzer, and it was fantastic.
It's like a bubbly espresso.
Yes, it was so good. And so that's become my drink of summer now. So after our run club on Wednesdays, we start and finish our run club at a coffee shop. Afterwards, I go in there and I get my espresso spritzer, and I sit down and hang out with people and chit chat. It's like utopia.
Oh, I gotta try that. It sounds so good.
It's so good. Final and last question before I let you go, Joyce. A tray of brownies has come out of the oven and it's been sitting on the counter long enough that you can cut it without making a mess of it. Are you the person that goes to the corner, to the edge, or to the center for the ooey gooey?
Corner.
Yes.
I like
Why?
It's the most edge.
Yes. And you have to have like that little change in texture, right? The crunchy piece.
Yeah, I like the crunchiness to it.
And you get to hold it. Like there's a handle basically.
That's right.
So when it comes to lasagna, do you also like the corner piece?
Ooh, no. I think I like the soft parts of the lasagna. Because the edges become like, the dry part.
Yeah,
and then
100%.
Yeah, no, different.
And this is why I love talking to people about their food choices, because like I go corner brownie, but I also go corner lasagna because I like that crunchy piece on the edge of the noodle. The noodle basically gets burned, let's be honest. And I love to hear like other people's opinions on it. It's fantastic.
We could even talk about keto because I actually experimented with keto.
Okay.
And this is while I was training for New York City Marathon. Now, I don't recommend keto for runners, actually, but it was an interesting experiment.
And what was interesting about it? Was it like hard to maintain? What was interesting?
The interesting part was, so I kind of wanted to see if being on a keto diet actually helps with an endurance athlete, right? Because and perhaps I didn't have to fuel as much during a race, like a marathon, right? Distance where you're out there for 4 or 5 hours or so. So that was kind of like the interesting sort of theory behind keto diet. But I think what I didn't like about it is usually for like the first 30 minutes of a run, I just felt crappy. Like your legs felt heavy, like there just wasn't the quick energy that you would need because your body is probably taking that amount of time to start breaking down fat to supply you the energy you need.
Yeah. Interesting. I never had a conversation with somebody about this. This is why we have to have you on the show again, so that we can break down your experience with the keto diet.
Yeah,
Joyce, thank you so much. I'm so glad that we finally were able to connect and get you on the show. I appreciate you taking the time to chat.
of course. No, thank you, Jason.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks for hanging out with Joyce and I for the last hour. That was a fun conversation. One thing that Joyce said that I believe is a repeat of what Melanie said last week, which is if you see somebody out there that looks like you, then you believe you can do it too. So I'm asking you, set the example. Do it scared. Go out there, set the example, do the thing, because there's somebody who is watching you who's going to say, if they can do it, so can I. And that's what we want to do. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me. I will see you next week on the next Fireside Chat on the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network. Have a great night.